Well, hello and welcome. We're just going to wait a few minutes to let people get settled and comfy, and I know more people are coming on every minute here. And I just want to say welcome to our webinar. I'm so excited to get started with you and share a few things today. I know that there's many people here with many different issues from around the world. Some of you are here because you're concerned about drought. You're in a deep drought. There's drought all over the world right now, and you're wondering how can you grow lush organic produce in a drought situation. And I'm so excited to be able to talk to you about that today. Some people are here because you know what? There's political instability and they're just concerned, maybe it's time to start growing my own food. Some people are here because of cost. They're just wanting to lessen the cost of food in their lives, and they know growing a garden is a really good way to do that. On that same line here in Canada, they are putting in a carbon tax, and they're taxing anything that uses fuel. So it's going to be a trickle down, trickle up tax in that everything's going to get more expensive because, of course, your transportation, depending on where the food comes from, there's costs in that. There's costs in stores and all kinds of things, and it just builds and builds and builds. So food prices are going to go up here in Canada as well as many other things, all the cost of all goods. Economic breakdown. There is lots of talk about the economy breaking down, and people are concerned about that. So they're wanting to grow their own garden. Chemicals. Yeah, you should be concerned about the chemicals in our gardens, in our air, in our food, in our water. So people know that by taking control of their food, they have a lot better chance of being chemical free. Some of you are new gardeners. You've never gardened before, and you're excited to learn the proper way to garden, and welcome. And some of you have been gardening forever, and you're intrigued by something that might be a little bit different, and maybe you're tired of bugs and so forth, so you're interested about that. And some of you are preppers. You're prepping for Armageddon, and God bless you. That's good. Anyway, I'm glad you're all here. We're going to go ahead and get started. So I've just listed a whole bunch of different issues that you might have as you come here today. I have titled this webinar, How to Protect Your Family from the Looming Food Crisis. And I really want to talk to you about that, why there is a looming food crisis. And not only just sort of lay that bare for you today, but also talk to you about growing food the creator-centered way. So we're going to get started in just a moment. Okay, so now that you're all in your comfy chairs with your pens ready, I want to ask you a very personal question, and that is this. When the looming food crisis hits, will you be able to feed your family on a short-term and a long-term basis? Just think about that. Can you? If disaster struck today, could you feed your family? Really important question. And some of you might be in the city, some of you might be in the country, and you're going to have maybe different answers. Some of you might be thinking, well, I could feed my family for a week. And some of you are thinking, I better be thinking about this. So the next question is, do you know how to effortlessly create an abundant food supply that gets richer each year on autopilot? So if you answered no to either of these questions, then I'm very, very glad you're here. So if your answer is no, please listen carefully because time is very short. And today I'm going to tell you the one thing you need to know to make it possible for you to easily grow all the organic, nutritious, abundant, chemical-free, weed-free food you need to. And I have special gifts for you. These are 3 documents, 11 urgent reasons why you need to grow your own food, 7 creative ways to grow food without a garden, growing a high-calorie, nutrient-dense garden that will feed you in times of trouble. Now, these 3 reports will not only give you inside information on the global crisis we are facing, they will help you start immediately to take control of your food supply and feed your family, even if you don't have a proper garden space. And I encourage you to share these documents, by the way. Please send them far and wide. Really want people to understand where we're at in history. All right, so to receive these gifts, please stick around until the end, and I'll tell you how you can get them. Oh, and by the way, this is about an hour. I haven't timed it out exactly, but this will be about an hour, so please make yourself comfortable, and please stay with me to the end. All right, so Today, here's what you'll discuss. Now, I love this garden. I just want to show you this. I love the abundance of this. You don't have to grow your garden like this. You can have it all neat rows if you like, but I love the flowers and the herbs and the plants together. To me, it's much more natural, and that's why I love this photograph so much. So here's what you'll discover today. Key issues putting your and the global food supply at risk. Why the man-centered way of growing and producing food is destroying our health, our families, and the planet. And what a creator-centered system looks like instead. Now, you've probably never thought about that before, man-centered versus creator-centered, but we will talk about that. why you need to get started immediately, taking control of your food supply and preparing for the looming food crisis. Because guys, it's coming. All right, my promise to you today, what to do. I will reveal a revolutionary new God-given strategy, how to take control of your food supply by easily and effortlessly growing an abundant organic harvest that will feed your family and maybe even your neighbors, no matter where you live. Today, you will hear about a way of gardening that uses almost no water and is not only no dig, it's almost no hassle, no weed, and no pests. In fact, even if you currently garden, if you could only change this one thing, you would see a massive change in your food production and the ease with which you do it. So first I should say who I am. And the all-important question is, can you trust me? Well, my name is Leah. I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist, and I'm an organic gardener. I've spent over 25 years helping countless people to improve their lives and health. I've worked everywhere from the poorest parts of town up through corporations, hospitals, private practice, and as a media spokesperson. And of course, I do consulting as well. I'm an influencer and a catalyst for change. And today it's your turn to make the changes that will impact your life for years to come. I spent many years studying, understanding, and researching the way food and toxins in our system causes disease and suffering. I've also spent many years gardening and researching ways to grow food that's easy and pesticide and chemical free and requires little or no weeding or watering. For the past few years, I've been heavily tuned in to what's happening around the world with weather systems and politics. And the combination of these three has created my current focus, teaching people how to protect their families from the looming food crisis without a lot of money, hard work, time, or expertise, or water. So here's why this webinar is important to you. You know, ignorance may be bliss, but it can also cost you your life. We are facing a time in history that's critical to the survival of the species, and I want you to know how to survive and thrive. While we can't control the macro in the world, that's what everybody else is doing and events going on around you, you can absolutely control the micro, what's going on in your life, and how to proactively be ready. And after a lifetime of research, I've discovered a simple, easy way that helps you grow food in the way that God intended and that is good for the earth and great for you. So, back to my favorite garden, let's begin. So the number one key issue affecting global food supply and why they will impact you. All right, if you can read this, heat waves and drought, we talked about this already. So the incidence of heat wave over 3 days has doubled from 1988 to 2015. So not only is the incidence of heat wave getting more frequent, the length of them has gotten bigger. Here's just something from Canada. Just recently, 70 people died in Quebec from heat as our planet recovers from record-smashing global heat wave, which shocked the experts. So that's from the Big Wobble. And in fact, this is a website I quite recommend. There you can get lots of up-to-date information on there. And so this is Quebec. I mean, this is northern Canada. This is not a place that's used to heat waves, okay? Communities all over the world are suffering from record heat, which is affecting crops, health, and animals. We know that Spain and Portugal are hitting record heat up there, like 50 degrees Celsius, which is incredibly crazy hot. Water will soon be more valuable than gold and oil. So I want you to think about this. Forget oil, forget gold. Water. Not only water to drink for your body, of course, but water for livestock and water for plants. So you want to learn to grow food in a way that conserves water. You already know this is the hottest summers on record. Wildfires are out of control all over the world. Greece, Europe, California, lots of places in the United States, northern Canada, northern Sweden, like the Arctic Circle's on fire right now. That's crazy. This is seriously important stuff. Natural disasters and floods. Now, I could go through, a bunch of headlines here. This is one from Japan recently. Almost half a year's rain has fallen in Japan in 10 days. And it's the worst disaster in Japan since the Fukushima disaster. 184 dead, 64 missing, 244,000 households without water after deadly floods, 6 million evacuated. So here's a picture of one little city in Japan that's suffering from flooding. And again, this is not unusual. There's flooding happening all over the world, and almost to the point you don't hear about in the news anymore. Crazy amounts of flooding and lots of people getting killed. On the other hand, where we're dealing with record heat in the northern hemisphere, there's record cold in the southern hemisphere. This is June 2018. Cold wave hits Peru, kills more than 600 people. Earthquakes, this is from February 2018. 50,000 people were affected with people still trapped and missing after Taiwan's earthquake. So immense earth changes happening right now. Tornadoes and hurricanes, again, record seasons. Volcanoes, this is Hawaii. This is July 2018. This, as you know, this volcano is just erupting, and it doesn't show any signs of stopping. So the thing you may not know is that at any given point, there's roughly 37 volcanoes at any given point on the Earth erupting. This just happens to be one that's getting a lot of coverage. So here's where we start getting into the food supply. So the volcanoes cause crop failures as a secondary problem. I mean, obviously there's big problems with this volcano. This is Guatemala with lots of people dead, but ash covers more than half of Guatemala, with dead crops a secondary disaster as the death toll hits 100 after Guatemala's Fuego volcano. So this is where you start seeing disruption to food. Of course, that's important for the people of Guatemala who are growing their own food, but also we are a very interconnected world, so you may be eating papayas from Guatemala, for example, and that's going to affect your food. Okay, here's some more headlines. Cape Town, South Africa runs out of water. Some of the world's biggest lakes are drying up. The Pacific Rim is on fire. 11 major events in 1 week. Volcanoes and earthquakes. Tipping point breached. 95% decline in monarch butterflies. Prediction of extinction of 2/3 of species by 2020. Okay, why am I telling you all this stuff? Oh yeah, political instability. This is Philadelphia, all the Antifa stuff. The top right photograph is Venezuela. So Venezuela, which was once a very prosperous nation, of course, is now starving, and they've eaten all the cats and dogs. And the world doesn't seem to be too concerned about this, but this was a communist country that's just collapsed under its own weight. Rumors of wars. Constant talk about wars. Here's some recent headlines. Trump, Syria, North Korea. Are we heading for a third world war? Largest protests in U.S. history are happening now. Expect them to get bigger. Loot to eat. The new mantra of Venezuela as socialism collapses leads to mass starvation. How the climate crisis could become a food crisis overnight. So these are all 2017, 2018 headlines. The world could run out of food in 10 years. The effect of climate change on food production around the world could lead to more than 500,000 deaths by the year 2050, according to a grim new study. Hunger eats away at Venezuela's soul as its people struggle to survive, and society will collapse by 2040 due to catastrophic food shortages, says one study. So you may already know all this. You may be thinking, hey, I just want to learn how to plant foods. Excellent. And I'm telling you all this because I want you to share it with your friends. I want people in your family and your community to understand where we're sitting so that you can be prepared and you can help them be prepared. Now, in the short term, if you just learn to grow great fruit, that's awesome too. If you learn to grow to feed your family, that's awesome. But I'm just trying to give you a bigger picture here and why this is so important. So my main point is all of these things are going to affect you. Supply lines, famines, countries needing food for their own people. So what happens in times of chaos is that people turn inward and they feed their own people, and that makes sense. So, in South Africa, they're killing all the white farmers. So South Africa is heading towards a famine too. Now, if you currently eat oranges or peaches from South Africa, you're not going to get those anymore. So you see how it's going to affect local markets, and it's going to affect international markets, and it's going to affect you one way or the other. We are all interconnected. We are in the middle of a serious shift right now, and you will be caught in it, whether you're ready or not. So I'm trying to help people be ready. So one more way food supply is under threat, and that's corporate monopolies. So I want you to take a look at this map. This was put together by Oxfam, and you can see how all these, you go into a supermarket and you see all these choices. You think you've got a lot of choice, but the truth is these 10 companies own everything, and it's even a smaller number of companies that actually own things from seed, like from food production, right from seed to grocery stores. So again, you think there's the farmers and they're growing the stuff, and then there's the manufacturers. Not so. The farms have been swallowed up, most of them, by big corporate interests, and they're all growing your food for you. And they're all owned by these nameless, faceless corporations. And these nameless, faceless corporations are in fact bigger than governments now. They're bigger than countries. And they're setting the rules, not your government. So if you ever wonder why your government's making stupid decisions, that's one of the reasons. So the second major thing then, how the nutrient content of food is affecting your mental and physical well-being. Well, you know this. Okay, these are dietitian plastic rubber forms. That's how I feel about a lot of fast food. But nutrient poor foods, it means you're not getting, so we often think of food in terms of, well, we're getting too much fat or too much salt, and that's a problem, but it's more of a problem what's not in those foods. So here's some recent headlines. Well, okay, so here's some of the stuff that's in it. Most cancer is caused by processed ingredients and toxic ingredients, a new study finds. Pepsi admits its soda contains cancer-causing ingredients. Now think about that. Pepsi is around the world, and it's being pumped into young children at an alarming rate, and they know it causes cancer. Study at Cedars-Sinai shows how food preservatives may disrupt human hormones and promote obesity. Scientists warn against using this one vegetable oil after study reveals it's detrimental to brain health. It could worsen symptoms of dementia and causes weight gains. So that's stuff that probably every single one of you has in your kitchen right now. Okay, genetically modified foods. Now, some people have said, is this the end of humanity? Other people say there's no harm. Well, animal studies show serious side effects. First of all, understand what they're doing. They're creating suicide seeds or terminator seeds, which means in the old days, a farmer would go out and sow his seed, say lettuce, and then the lettuce would, the lettuce at the end of the season would bolt and it would produce seeds, and then he would plant those seeds next year. Now, certain companies are selling suicide seeds, which means that at the end of the year, those plants will not produce seeds that you can plant. They may produce seeds, but they will not produce the seeds that you can plant and grow lettuce again next year. So you have to go back to the seed company to get more seeds. Now, that is the stupidest, most selfish thing I've ever heard of in the history of the world. So basically, they're trying to create humanity dependent on their one company. And they've done this all over Africa and other countries, so this is very frightening. But then they're patenting seeds. That's the other thing they're doing. So now what used to be free and literally in God's purveyor, God's creation, is now being patented. So if you grow their seeds without, say for example, some of their seeds drifted into your garden and started growing, you could be sued because it's patented. What we're seeing in people with GMOs is infertility, immune system problems, accelerated aging, changes to major organs. Oh, sorry, this was in the animal studies. The GI tract and insulin regulation was a problem. So I've got the reference underneath there. The problem with GMOs is they're creating them at a ferocious speed, and there's little or no safety testing. They just throw them out there and say, well, it's all natural because we've been doing this forever. No, you haven't been doing it forever. They take specific genes and put them in other organisms, and that has not been done in the history of the world. So there's little or no safety testing. This stuff's only been on the market 10, 15, 20 years. We don't know the long-term consequences. And it's unmarked, so you don't know when you're buying food in the supermarket. You don't know what you're getting. It's also doused in heavy pesticides and herbicides, so that's the way they're planned, right? So they douse the fields in herbicides and pesticides, and then everything dies except the one crop that they've bred to withstand those things. So the crop is fine, but you're ingesting all those pesticides and herbicides. And they're everywhere in our food supply. Other issues, chemical fertilizers. Chemical fertilizers was a very exciting thing, and after the war, people were very excited because of the huge yields that these chemical fertilizers produced. But what they don't do is they don't put nutrients back in the ground. So in time, you get fewer and fewer nutrients in your soil and therefore in your plants. In addition to that, soil has become very, very acidic. It's hard to grow food. Therefore, you need more fertilizer, more pesticides, and more herbicides because the plants are stressed. And when plants are stressed, they get attacked and they don't do as well. Produce is picked green and shipped, and that means it's ripened artificially, so there's fewer nutrients. There's a difference between whether you actually let something ripen on the vine versus whether it ripens after. So that's another reason you have fewer nutrients. And the final point is they're removed during manufacturing. So one example is magnesium. There's many, 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 many examples, but this is my favorite because magnesium is used in over 600 functions in your body. And it's one of the first things they take out when they're taking, say, refining wheat, for example. They take all the outer husk off, and that's where all the nutrition is. So, but every cell in your body contains magnesium and needs magnesium to function for energy creation, protein creation, gene maintenance, muscle movement, nervous system regulation, and bone formation. And without it, you can get depression, diabetes, blood pressure, PMS, anti-inflammatory. It's used as an anti-inflammatory, so without it you get inflammation and many, many more things. And yet between 50 and 80% of North Americans are deficient. So I'm trying to give you many, many reasons that you want to grow your own food. Now, as if the above weren't bad enough, do you know what the third leading cause of death is? Yeah, I didn't know this either. Prescription drugs. Now, some people say, medical mistake as well. This came out recently in the British Medical Journal and the National Institute of Health. So this is straight from the guys who know what they're talking about. And prescription drugs are the number 3 cause of death after probably, cancer and heart disease. So, summary, we are sick because we're eating poor quality food doused in chemicals. We are seeking drugs to help heal our sickness. We are dying because of both of these things, and our food supply and even our very survival is at stake. So I know you're here because you want to grow gardens. And so my third main point here is about the way we grow. So we've always grown a man-centered way, and I want to explain to you what that is. So first of all, we talked about the NPK chemical fertilizers. NPK being nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And incidentally, you may or may not know that those are the three elements you make bombs out of. So that's why we had all this surplus after the war. We had NPK because we were making bombs out of them. And they found magically that it caused crops to grow as well. But as I mentioned earlier, early gains, long-term pain. Okay, they do not contribute to the soil, which makes it, and the nitrogen in it makes it very, very acidic. Monoculture crops. Now, in nature, things do not grow in monoculture. It's all a mixture of things. Because when you grow in monoculture, it encourages insect infestation. It's like the things that like to eat, strawberries. If there's a billion strawberries there, there's a billion things eating them. This all leads us to needing more and more chemical fertilizers. More fertilizer and more chemicals. We need pesticides, herbicides, and then they made GMOs that are tolerant to them. And it also uses a lot of precious water. The way we farm is very water intensive. So the man-centered way of growing food has led to massive use of GMO foods, pesticides, herbicides, acidic earth and soils, and therefore crops that are deficient in nutrients. It's a really bad way to grow food, and human health is suffering. So, why am I glad you're here? Well, my goodness, the entire global food supply is under threat, no matter where you live. The food is controlled by monopolies, and we have lost all say in what goes into it. Companies are run for profit, not for the health of their customers. People are getting sicker and sicker each year, and most people don't know how to eat well or grow their own food. So again, you may know some of this, or you may know all of this, but I'm hoping it's a good reminder for you, and you will be very motivated to share what I'm going to share with you. So what I've just shown you is the reason I searched so long for a solution. As a dietitian, an avid gardener, and a concerned human, I just knew there had to be a better way of doing things. So do you want to know how it's supposed to work? There are systems on our earth that have worked since time began. We have tried to replace them and in many instances have even destroyed them. But there is a way to get back to them. I promise you. So, what if you didn't have to rely on the outside world? What if it didn't matter what disasters were hitting because you had your own food supply system? What if you were able to provide nutritious, organic food for yourself and your family, maybe even your neighbors? And what if you got sick less because you ate well and didn't need those drugs? Think about that for a moment. What if you just didn't need the drugs? And what if it was easy? Wouldn't that be the best part? What if it was easy? Okay, so there's an explosive new solution that can quickly and easily create an inexpensive, highly productive, organic garden that runs on autopilot and needs little watering, weeding, fertilizing, or pest control. And it's been right under our noses all this time. You can even grow this garden at your cabin or retreat, and in time it will grow on autopilot. Not at first. Now, I really have to stress this. It takes time to grow this and to implement this, but it's a very easy concept, and over time it gets richer and richer and richer. So over time, you could theoretically plant a garden and not even need to be there. It would grow by itself. So this is awesome for preppers. This is awesome if you have a cabin in the middle of nowhere. Maybe you go there on weekends and you don't want to have to water all the time. It's awesome for people who are really busy and just don't have time to be doing all the stuff they normally do in the garden, weeding and so forth. This system is brilliant. Whether you live in the country, in the city, in the middle of nowhere, it's brilliant. Okay, so the old way. We talked about the sort of macro picture, but do you remember the way you used to garden? And this is the way I used to garden too. You get all excited, you go out there in the spring and you plow your field, or you dig it up, whatever your size of your field is, and you overturn the soil and you do all that stuff, and then you plant your garden, and then you water it, right? But then very shortly, just even before your plants are coming up, the weeds are coming up, and there's weeds all interspersed with your plants, and you're out there day in, day out weeding. And you're out there watering. So it's water, weed. And of course, when you water, you feed the weeds. When you fertilize, you feed the weeds, right? So it's this constant battle between watering and weeding. And some people, just give up. I know many, many people who start with excitement in the spring, and then they get so discouraged because it's so much work. Or can you imagine if you leave your garden for a week and you don't go back to it until the weekend? It's probably dead, unless you have, of course, sprinklers and stuff on it. It's dead. And or full of weeds, because the weeds always grow better than your lettuce, don't they? They grow better than your tomatoes. The weeds are weeds because they're a plant that does well in that area, much better than your tomatoes do. And the incredible thing, and I put on here bitter produce because this was the thing that was frustrating me so much as it's gotten hotter and hotter, and as I've been trying to grow more food. One thing that really frustrates me is that, my lettuce was bitter. I would plant all this stuff and go, wow, it doesn't taste good. And I'd go to the store and get store-bought lettuce and feel really guilty because I had a garden full of lettuce, but it didn't taste good. And I was like, what am I doing wrong? Like, what is wrong with this picture? And the old way was no food security too, because you didn't know. Like, as I just said, I would grow this crop and I'd go, oh, this is terrible, I just throw it out because it wasn't predictably good. I wasn't confident in creating a crop that was predictable and good and that I could literally live on it. It was more of a fun thing. Oh, cool, I got strawberries. Oh, wow, look, I got 3 tomatoes. That's awesome. Some years I had tons and tons of tomatoes, and sometimes they were killed by some unknown thing. And so I know most people have that frustration of the up and down of their garden. So I searched a long, long, long time, and I'm a very avid gardener, and I tried different methods. And I always want to share my knowledge with my clients because, one of the best ways to get kids eating good food, for example, is to grow it and people to seek out those beautiful baby carrots, and they'll understand how sweet and wonderful they are. But I was about to give up in terms of finding a system that actually was good for a lot of people that wasn't too complicated. I know there's great progress being made in permaculture and all kinds of wonderful things, but for the average person, it's just too much information. An average person doesn't want to build a swale or they just want to go out and pick their lettuce. So anyway, I literally was just fed up. And then I met a man, and he taught me the one thing that changed everything. He allowed me to see the way I've been thinking about gardening all my life, and the way most people think about it is just wrong. He taught me one thing that changed everything, the way I thought about gardening, and has changed the way I've gardened. I have to tell you about the asparagus. Now, I went to his garden. I read some of his, I read his book, and I had to go see this for myself. So I went to his garden, and he was showing me around and some others around the garden, and I was learning so much, and it was so wonderful. And he said, hey, does anybody want to try this asparagus? Now, I looked at this asparagus, and I'm not kidding, this asparagus was 4 feet tall. Now, you know that when things bolt, when they go to seeds, they can get, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 feet tall, right? Depending on the species. They go crazy, right? Well, this asparagus was not bolting. Now, you and I know that a good tasting asparagus is about 1 foot tall, and it's quite thin, right? You pick them when they're tender, you pick them when they're small. You don't want them too tall, you don't want them too thick. And you even know that when you pick them, you even cut their little feet off. You cut the little ends because they're too tough, right? I looked at this asparagus, and I'm not kidding, it was 4 feet tall. I'm not exaggerating. And it was at least 1 inch across. So it wasn't thin, narrow, lovely. It was at least, I don't know how much it would be around, but it was at least, if you cut it in half, it'd be at least 1 inch wide. And I looked at that thing, and I said, you've got to be kidding me. But he offered me a bite, so I'm like, all right, I'm here. I will bite your asparagus. And I took a bite of this asparagus, and I'm not kidding. So think about this. Think of what you usually do with asparagus. You boil it or steam it. You add butter to it. You add salt to it. You add cheese sauce to it. Like, people do a lot of things to make asparagus a delicacy and make it taste good, right? So here I am biting a 4-foot asparagus, 1 inch across. Not cooked, not even gently steamed, literally right out of the garden. No butter, no salt, no cheese sauce. And I'm not kidding, it's the best vegetable I have ever tasted in my life. I was astonished. It literally brought tears to my eyes. It was so good. And we had just been sampling the strawberries, so I know what sweet tastes like, but I tasted this asparagus, and my world stopped spinning because I was overwhelmed at how good this was. And it blew all of my concepts out of the park completely. So I share this with you because I'm like you. Okay, theories are great, fine, but I want to see, taste, touch, feel, observe, try it. So that was my introduction into the magical world of a way different way of gardening. So he explained to me very lovingly that the way he gardens is creator-centered. Now, some of you may not be comfortable with that terminology. You might say it's Mother Nature, but I believe there's a creator. I believe there's a loving God who provides all these things for us. And I believe we've gotten far, far away from his design, his systems. So he explained to me it's creator-centered. He explained to me there's nothing toxic. You think about when we throw things away, we have to take them to the dump often because we can't recycle them. Pesticides, when they're producing pesticides and stuff, some of the offshoots kill things and they're bad, right? So there's nothing toxic. When things break down in creation, it's beautiful and it feeds itself. It feeds the system. There's no intervention. That means that God created this incredibly perfect system, and he's not out there weeding, right? The angels aren't out there weeding. He's created this perfect system that works perfectly. That if you have a drought, say for example your cottage, say you plant a garden and then you go away for a month and there's been a drought, you'll come back and there'll be nothing alive, maybe the odd weed, but your garden will be dead. Your beautiful little sprouts won't be living. Your tomatoes will be shriveled. You know that, right? If you don't water your garden in a drought situation, your garden dies. But if you look around you in the forest, and in fact, if you go into the forest and you scratch down and you feel beneath the surface, you will find the forest is fine. Look around you, the fields are fine, the forest is fine, they're thriving. I mean, unless it's been like 15 years with no water. The trees are happy. And the trees are happy because they've got deep roots, but look around. Underneath the forest floor, there's flowers, there's plants, there's you might consider them weeds, but they're thriving, right? So understand that God has this world on autopilot. Man, in an effort to improve things, has dramatically altered and damaged things. So understand that God's systems work much better than ours. So I want to talk about 5 keys to success. Number 1, while man has turned to chemicals and questionable genetic engineering to try to solve the problems of a hungry planet, we have a much simpler method. And this is the key, this is the one thing. Observe what God and nature does and copy it. It's really simple. It's really simple. So even if you stop this this webinar right now and you go away, I want you to think about that and observe everything that the planet does all on its own. Okay, so that's key number 1. Right, so again, a few things you don't see in nature. Monoculture, plowing and digging. Have you ever seen plowing and digging in God's fields or God's forests? Absolutely not. He does it a different way, right? He layers. All right, toxic chemicals. No, God's not out there spraying, right? So as you think about what you don't see in nature, think about what you do with your garden. And think about the things you need to change. All right, key number 2. Rather than the usual strategy of having to bring in expensive amendments to your garden every year. I mean, have you ever done this? You spent $300 on fertilizers and amendments and you got, $12 worth of tomatoes. Instead of doing that, plan a garden that will be on autopilot and get richer each passing year with one simple ingredient. Key number 3, rather than using copious amounts of water, use a strategy that will not only conserve this precious resource, but actually build up to the point where you need almost no water to grow your crops. Now, if you're in a drought-prone area, you're going to really like this one. Rather than plowing and breaking up the earth, rather than watering a lot, this system that I'm talking about relies on adding a nutrient to the earth that immediately conserves water the first year and prevents evaporation and scorching, but becomes a superstar over time as it builds up, rendering less and less need for water over time. So again, you will see some advantages immediately, and some things take time, but it's always good and it's always getting better. Key number 4, rather than spending weeks out of your season doing backbreaking weeding or using toxic herbicides, use a method that naturally discourages weeds so they're almost a thing of the past. Key number 5, rather than spending your hard-earned money on dangerous and toxic pesticides to kill the bugs and pests in your garden, which of course, as you know, often kills the good bugs as well. And when we're talking about good bugs, we're not just talking about ladybugs. We're talking like the microflora that's in the dirt. We don't think about that. We spread all these chemicals and we don't think about the natural microbiology, all the stuff that's in there that's contributing to the nutrient-rich earth and even to the air that's in the earth. So use a method that naturally discourages pests so you're almost bug-free. wow, was I excited when I learned this new system. I jumped in with both, well, first I jumped with joy, and then I jumped in with both feet and implemented his system. I was so excited because this has been the answer I'd been looking for a long, long time. Something that was simple, something that was easy, something that anybody can do, and actually got results. Okay, suddenly, wow, gardening was fun. I was no longer doing all the weeding and all the backbreaking work I had to do every spring. There was no weeds. I mean, immediately there was no weeds, and then the amount of weeds that came in afterwards over the next few months were very few compared to normal. Very, very, very few. And the ones that did come in, they were really easy to pull, so that was exciting. In the first year, I used half the amount of water. You know, I used to be out there watering, and I would still come out at the end of the day and my plants would be thirsty. Literally in the first season, I used half the water I did the previous season, so that was really exciting. And actually, I worked with a lady who had started a garden like this the previous year, and she was also telling me that was her first experience. Yes, she still watered in the first and second year, but the number of weeds way down and the amount of water in half. But the exciting thing was my lettuce was sweet. I was so happy. And my kale was sweet. And so that was really a turning point. You know, again, it's one thing to hear about a system. It's another thing to go and test the produce. It's another thing to do it yourself. And so what I would say in my first year, it saved me so much time. I grew great produce and sweet produce with so much less work. And the best part, it gets better and better, easier and easier, richer and richer every year. Now, normally that doesn't happen. Normally, you know, in a regular garden, every year you have to put in new fertilizer. Every year you have to turn it over. Every year you have to do all this back-breaking work. Have you ever done this where you did all this work and then next spring you go back and the earth is hard and you have to start all over again? The weeds are there. It's very discouraging, right? And a lot of people do get discouraged because of that reality. So my friend, he waters only at planting and not again until harvest. So he waters until the little sprouts come up and they're happy, and then he doesn't have to water again until harvest. Now that's unheard of. I've never heard of that happening ever before, but I saw his garden and I believe it now because I've seen it. So imagine if you pay for your water, like some people don't, but a lot of people pay for your water. Imagine your water bill if you don't have to water your garden. Imagine your time savings if you don't have to water a garden. Imagine how this can impact drought-ravaged places. Now, I'm not saying you will never have to water. This is something that builds up over time, but I'm saying this is something that your garden works towards over years, and it improves year by year, and I promise this. Doesn't happen overnight. So he doesn't have to water. I still do, right? So understand it's not a miracle thing. It builds. But so here's the other thing. So it's not just about water, but way less weeding, way less pests, no digging, very little need for crop rotation, less of need for companion planting. Even though I love companion planting, I won't stop companion planting just because I really enjoy it. I think it's important to provide companion plants that attract good insects, beneficial insects, and we can talk about that another time. But the other thing that's really interesting is a pH thing. You know, you're always putting amendments, like here in the Pacific Northwest, it gets very acidic in the soil, and so we add a lot of lime to it. Other places you have to make it more acidic because it's too alkaline. He doesn't have that problem, and so over time, this type of gardening makes a beautiful, beautiful pH. And things like potatoes, you know, like he doesn't rotate his potatoes, and that is just an absolute no-no. You know that if you don't rotate your potatoes, they get all scabby and nasty, right? Well, he doesn't. And so it's exciting to see. He plants his potatoes the same place. I think he's planted the same place for like 25 years or something. It's crazy. It runs in total opposite to what gardening wisdom talks about. So this is pretty exciting stuff, and I'm in the process of testing all this, so it's pretty neat. Now, the other amazing thing that he taught me how to do is that you can create a garden instantly on top of any surface. Yep, even rocks, even on top of weeds, even on top of grass, even on top of concrete. And I put this beautiful European street just to show you that if we wanted to put a garden right there, we could. We probably won't. But say you have a gravel patch behind your garage that's not being used. Say you have a rock-infested nasty bit of stuff in your backyard that you just, you don't feel like digging, or are, your bones won't let you dig that much. You don't have to. That's the exciting thing, that with this system, you do not have to dig. I personally found that when I did this, I did want to dig out some of the big weeds, like the really tenacious weeds, because they can come back. But it depends on, in any case, for sure, you can do this on top of concrete without worrying about it. So it's up to you whether you want to actually dig out some of your really nasty weeds, whatever you're capable. So there's a lot of unhappy people out there, and there's a lot of people that need this solution. So I really realize that this is the solution people desperately are seeking all over the world. So here's my third question to you. The first two, I know your answer was maybe no. I'm hoping that maybe your answer for this one is yes. Are you interested in creating a reliable, organic, inexpensive food supply for your family? Even if you're not a gardener, even if you have no time, even if you have little money, even if you have little space. Are you interested in creating this? Bet you are. If you're still here, I bet you are. So thousands of people around the world are using this method and getting amazing, fantastic, great results. So if you'd like me to help you implement everything I've learned, I would be honored to do that. Hey, if you're watching this, you know the times we're living in and understand the urgency of providing for your family and community. So today, you have the chance to grab the roadmap that shows you how to get started immediately. It's called Survival Garden, and it's literally so easy. Everyone can do it. And it's so urgent. Everyone must do it. And again, I encourage you to teach all your friends how to do this. So this is Survival Garden, and I've put it together in a really easy format. It's a 4-part webinar series. Actually, you know what? It's a 5-part webinar series. Since I put these slides together, we've added another module. Seriously, it's the one thing that will change the way you garden forever. It will change your life, I promise you that. And it's great because, some people like to read, some people don't. We start with a webinar series, and you can learn really easily through this. So it's an in-depth webinar series that will give you startling new information that will change everything you know about gardening. I've just given you, I've alluded to a little bit here. I have so much more to tell you, but I haven't got enough, I can't keep you here forever. So little known secrets that will help you create a complete garden in under 1 hour. So I'm not kidding. This is easy. There's stuff to learn. But you can literally go out there and create a garden in under 1 hour. And if you aren't maybe able to lift and wheelbarrow and move rocks and dirt around, well, not rocks, but dirt, get some help. Like, don't be discouraged by your physical limitations. Get people in your life to come and help you, because it's literally that easy. All right. It'll also give you the skills and knowledge to create an organic, weed-free, chemical-free nutrition powerhouse that you and your family can rely on for years to come. And the confidence to share this vital information with all the people you care about. And I'm not kidding. I want you to share this information. Okay. So it also reveals the fatal mistake you should never make. Okay, this is really important, and I'll stress it many, many times. There's one thing that you absolutely cannot do, or this won't work. So we'll tell you that. I promise you the first webinar. And the secret ingredient you add once per year that puts your garden on autopilot, so you barely have to worry about it. And I'm not kidding. Once a year, you need to do this one thing. And it's simple, okay? So imagine the joy of getting up in the morning and going outside to pick berries and fruit for your breakfast from your own garden. We're growing grapes now, and we just love it. I never thought we could grow grapes here. We're growing peach trees, we're growing tomatoes and strawberries and apples and some kiwis. We're growing kiwis. Like we're just experimenting with everything right now, and really, really reaping a great harvest. Okay, this is a bad picture of some Swiss chard, but imagine, in spite of the scorching heat and water shortage in your area, harvesting beautiful greens from your garden and even having enough to share with grateful neighbors. And that's what it's all about, right? Loving each other, caring for each other, lifting each other up. Imagine your family's relief being self-sufficient regardless of economic, weather, or political crisis. And this is important. Yeah, if your backyard is burning down, your garden's not going to help you, but your neighbors might be okay. And again, that's why we have to raise up as communities and small towns and help each other and prepare for all this stuff that's coming on the earth, because it's pretty intense right now, right? Imagine how you'll feel providing organic, nutritious, life-giving food to your family with very little expense, hassle, work, weeding, or water. Imagine that. So don't be frightened by the times we live in. I mean, we live in serious times. We do. But just be prepared. And, it never hurts to pray, too. It's good to pray. But this is one skill you can have, and that is gardening. Be the go-to person in your neighborhood. Teach all your friends to be self-sufficient, too. Your community will be stronger and better prepared as well. So this is the ultimate game changer. You can relax knowing your needs are taken care of with a resource that will only get richer over time. And you can garden in a 8x4 plot. You can garden an acre. It doesn't matter. This method works. Of course, you can't grow all the food you need in 8x4, but it's a start, right? So in this webinar, I will walk you through step by step. On the one hand, it's completely easy and you will grasp the concept within minutes. On the other hand, you will have lots of questions because this will challenge conventional wisdom. You'll be going, what? Are you serious? So we'll work with you over, again, a 5-week period for your total success. I want you to think of Survival Garden as your secret weapon. This is your secret weapon to provide for yourself and your future and your family and your community. It gives you independence. It gives you food security. It gives you peace of mind. And, as a nice byproduct, it does create the healthiest food on the planet with very little effort. It's easy, guys. It's easy. Okay? So, sounds like a great deal, right? So at this point, you might be wondering, I think you're selling me something. How much is your investment going to be in Survival Garden? Well, let's look at the value. And I kind of struggled when I was trying to figure out the value of this. It's very hard. Why? Because, well, first of all, you'll be able to set up your survival garden in as little as 60 minutes. This is good for you because you can have an average size garden, so that's 8x4, up and running with almost no work and in less than an hour. Imagine how wonderful that will feel. And yes, we do have a strategy for those of you who don't have much space too, but hopefully you've got a little bit of space you can work with. So to easily grow a garden that will provide for your family is incredibly valued to you. Over a lifetime or even a short time, the value is even impossible to state. What is your health worth to you? If you've stopped gardening because you couldn't do it or you're frustrated, understand the value of this over time. Number 2, it reveals the secret ingredient you only have to add once a year. So this is important because you will easily create a garden that gets richer and richer with each passing year, producing copious amounts of life-giving foods from this nutrient powerhouse and strategy. Well, what's that worth to you? I'm not kidding. I am not exaggerating. It is one ingredient, and it will change your life and change your garden. And not only that, we'll tell you how to get it free. So yes, it's a life-giving ingredient. Yes, it will change your life. Yes, it will put your garden on autopilot, and I'll tell you how you can get it free. Well, I put the value at 1,000. My goodness, it's much more than that. Number 3, it teaches you how to garden easily without herbicides or pesticides. This is big because you learn to provide toxin-free, completely safe food for your family's survival. Imagine the peace of mind knowing that you are growing foods that are toxin-free and safe to eat. Again, value, well, what's the value to you growing foods that aren't going to cause you cancer? Well, it's priceless, but I'll put a value at 500. Number 4, it teaches you the creator's way to garden. Yeah, we talked about this. You don't want to garden man's way. Yes, you will learn to work with nature, not against it. This is the best news ever. It means growing your own food just got way easier. And guess what? It's guilt-free. Again, value, priceless, but I'll put it at 1,000. Number 5 reveals easy solution to almost every gardening problem you might face. This includes pH, crop rotation, companion planting, pests, all the other things that you're constantly worrying about in your garden. With the old methods, you don't have to worry about them anymore. Okay, so this is a good thing because your barren, struggling plot of earth, weeds or gravel, can be transformed into a garden that rarely needs to be weeded, watered, fertilized, or pest managed. No more wasting time on repetitive chores. This new strategy will change the way you garden forever. Value? Well, wouldn't you love to experience the joy and ease of this? And you know what? This works even if you live in the desert. So value, $500, much more than that. Number 6, it unleashes a proactive strategy to help you take control of your food supply and plan for disaster. This is great because you can begin to relax immediately, knowing that you can provide for your family for years to come. You can create an entire community that's well-fed and healthy with organic produce, grains, and beans, and as importantly, improve your community's readiness for natural or economic disaster. Value, $2,000. Well, you multiply the value that you're going to get from this, multiply that throughout all your friends and neighbors. Honestly, this is priceless. Okay, I've said priceless like 5 or 6 times. I'm putting the value at $5,000. That's an incredible value. Is that worth a small cost today? Absolutely. In fact, if I could be so bold, I'd like to suggest that this is priceless. So how much money do you spend in insurance every year for your car, for your house, for your life, for your boat? You could lose all those things. And if you had a garden, you'd be okay. Or you could gain all those things, but you didn't have food. You'd be in deep, deep trouble. So think about, how much is peace of mind worth? Knowing that you have a foolproof method of providing for your family. Even if you have to move, you can start again easily because this is knowledge that you will remember forever. So Survival Garden is your food insurance. This knowledge will be invaluable and last a lifetime, I promise. You'll be so excited and you'll be so thrilled when you do this. Now, this system normally would be offered for about $399 because of its great value, and for a very select group of people. But it's a deal even at that price. But for a very limited time, we want to offer it at much, much less. This is for you. So for you, for today, you can have all that insurance at not $5,000, not $399, but the very small one-time price of $127. There's a 30-day money-back guarantee with no questions asked. If you're not 100% happy, we will cheerfully refund your money. So you can go through, almost all of the seminars, webinars, and if you're not happy, just tell me, and I'll give you your money back. Okay? I promise. So you have nothing to lose. This is risk-free. You've got everything to gain. That's why now is the perfect time to get your hands on every single secret in Survival Garden. Click the link and get your copy today. Oh, and there's bonuses. I need to tell you this. So number 1, this will get you started right out of the gate. Learn the top questions most people have about Survival Garden and get a head start on your garden. Value, $50 easily, because these are the top burning questions most people have. Essential herb book. This is such a sweet little book. 18 well-known herbs that are essential to your health and easy to grow. Learn how to grow them and incorporate them into your life. So not only some of them you're probably familiar with, you probably didn't know how easy they were to grow, and how important they are for your health. This thing alone, if you start growing herbs and incorporating them into your diet, will change your health dramatically. Value $27. Number 3, Herbal Tea Collection. This is a very simple and elegant ebook that gives you wonderful healing recipes for teas, many of which you can grow in your backyard. There's 88 recipes, and try them. They're all good, and you can grow them. Number 4, Superfoods for Superhealth. Now, this was written by a dietitian, and this is because you are worth it. This ebook shows you how to adopt superfoods for your super life. Learn which foods help with depression, immunity, and stress, and so much more. Value $25, but yours today free as part of your package. Number 5, extend your gardening season with a greenhouse. Well, greenhouses are essential to growing vegetables year-round in northern climates and getting a head start in the spring. This introductory book explores the pros and cons of types of greenhouses and how to use them. Value $20. Number 6, 125 Ways to Go Green. This great little ebook gives you 125 tips on how to live a greener life, including 19 ways to improve energy and waste in the kitchen, 20 ways to improve energy consumption in your appliances, ways to economize on your car, and so much more. So that's just kind of like a fun little bonusy thing. Value $20. All right, total value, well, $162 in the bonuses, $5,000 in real value in the webinar. And again, I keep saying this, it is priceless. So that's an incredible value. Is that worth a small cost today? Absolutely. So again, how much is Survival Garden? Well, again, normally this would easily cost $399 because the information we're giving you, and each webinar is 90 minutes. So there's lots and lots of information that we're going to be giving you. Because you're here, you're getting a great deal. Because you will receive 6 great bonuses free and 5 webinars at 90 minutes each, all for just $127. It is so, so good. Again, my personal promise, this is risk-free. This is ironclad. We 100% stand behind Survival Garden. If you're unhappy for any reason whatsoever, let me know, and I will cheerfully refund your money if you contact me within the 30-day window. No questions asked. So here's what some people are saying about Survival Garden. This is from Greg. This book has literally changed my life and my family's life. We grow abundant fresh produce and just have to step outside to juice amazing greens, fruits, and vegetables, and it is so easy. I've watched my wife struggle for years doing the traditional gardening thing, and this book changes everything. Thank you, Survival Garden. This is from Linda. I'm not the gardener in the family. I'll leave that to my husband, Keith. However, after reading your book, I'm excited to join him outside this spring to see what we can produce using the directions in your Survival Garden book. Can't wait. We have been telling our family and friends about your book, and we'll be recommending it to others as well. Linda. Oh, and one more thing. Are you one of those people who's tried every system and nothing has worked? You just don't have a green thumb? You're afraid this won't work for you? I know how you feel. I tried many things before, and I found this one thing that changed everything. Heck, I even found myself in front of the poison section of the local garden center thinking, well, maybe just this once. I even drove to another country to get answers. I was so desperate, and I can tell you it was worth it. Once I tasted that asparagus, there was no going back. So today, thank you for joining me on this webinar today, and I just want to quickly recap everything you get. Survival Garden webinar series, your food insurance for you and your family for the rest of your life. A 5-week series that is literally worth its weight in gold, as it will show you how to create abundant, organic, chemical-free food and give you ultimate food security, a value well over $5,000. Plus your bonuses, your Survival Garden Frequently Asked Questions audio, Essential Herb Book, Herbal Tea Recipes, Superfood for Superhealth, Extend Your Gardening Season, and 125 Ways to Go Green. That's a value of $162 dollars that is absolutely free. As bonuses if you buy today. So $5,162 worth of value, yours today for only $127. And again, this is risk-free. And I just want to say, do whatever you have to do to get growing now. Join with your family, join with your friends, get your children to help you do this, or your parents, depending on where you are in this scenario. You will go from strength to strength as you learn to grow together, as you help each other, as you just eat good food together and create a bit of security for yourselves, no matter what the environment is doing, no matter what the economics of the world are doing, and all the unrest. So if not now, when? Do yourself a favor, grab your copy of Survival Garden today. It's a lifetime limited offer and you don't want to miss it. So why wait? There are crises deepening around the world, and this is the knowledge you need right now. You need to find a garden space right now. You need to learn this now. You need to share this with your friends and family. So buy now. Now, just click the buy button that should be showing on the screen right now. If you cannot see a buy button, then go to this address here. So it's www.sg, and there's an underscore like a space, webinaroffer.gr8.com. That's like great, right? GR8. www.sg_webinaroffer.gr8.com. Or if you see a button on, some people will see it, some people won't. If you see a button showing up on your screen, please go there right now. It will take you to a checkout page. It's all very secure and very quick. It's all, through a secure server, so you don't have to worry about your credit card or whatever. It's just very secure. These are all digital products, so you don't have to wait for delivery. They will be in your inbox very, very quickly. And remember, it's risk-free. So again, click the button you see on your page, or go to sg_webinaroffer.gr8.com. And try it for a month. If it hasn't radically altered the way you grow food, let me know, and I'll refund every penny. And that's my promise to you today. Questions. Okay, so I'd like to answer a few questions. I'm just going to put that on the screen for now. I'm just going to grab a page with questions that have come in here. So one question that's come in is, how long are the seminars? Okay, well, again, there's 5 of them, and they'll be 90 minutes each. So the first few will be basically giving you the nuts and bolts of the system, and then we will answer lots of questions as we go. So there's always chances to answer questions. You can send your questions in ahead of time, which is nice for me because then I can put them into the plan. And then each one is 90 minutes. So money back, yep, absolutely. You get your money back if you're unhappy, or if you go, oh, I knew this already, or can't afford this, whatever reason you have. We don't ask questions. It's just like, we hope we've blessed you, and if not, you get your money back. Facebook group, yes, there is a private Facebook group. I've been talking for an hour and a half now, and my mouth is seizing up here. There is a Facebook group. It's private. It's just for us, so we can post questions and answers on there. And when does it start? Well, the nice thing about the way we're doing this is you will have options. We know that not everybody's available Monday at 7 o'clock. So also everybody's in different time zones all over the world. So we are making it possible for you to schedule your own workshops in. So they're going to be held once a week, but you can choose the time. Okay, so that makes it incredibly flexible for you. And you don't need to miss a webinar. But if you do, we will also offer the replay for you the day later. So it's all good. You are covered in every possible way. So I know that's a commitment some people find hard to make. Well, I don't have 90 minutes, one particular day of the week. So we've worked really hard to make that possible for you. And replay, yes, the link will be sent. So those are the top questions. I just really hope that you will join us. And I look forward to helping you create a whole new world for yourself. Now, so this is the last chance. The call is ending very shortly, and this is a time-limited offer. But I wanted to give you your link to get your free gifts. So that's https://freegifts.gr8.com/. So again, freegifts.gr8.com/. And I'll just leave that up for a minute. So you can go down there, and of course your gifts are yours to keep. And please enjoy them. And if you have any questions, please let me know at the address that you have that should be with your confirmation for this webinar. You should be able to ask any questions you might have. Okay? So it's time to make your decision to take a leap forward. Click the button on the bottom of your screen, or go to sg_webinaroffer.gr8.com. I shouldn't get lazy with that, should I? So that's us. Survival Garden. So easy. Everyone can do it. So urgent. Everyone must do it. God bless you. I'm so glad you joined us for this webinar here today, and I hope to speak with you very soon.